Here's the thing with Steven Soderbergh movies. They are always hit or miss with me. For every Ocean's 11, Logan Lucky, or Aaron Brockovich, there's a Traffic or Solaris, which I just found sorta meh. The nice thing is that even when I find one of his movies just so-so, it's still going to be a quality movie. He's not a slouchy director. So more often than not, it comes down to the subject matter and how he chooses to pace his movies. This movie has a great pace, along with a bunch of other good stuff. Let's talk about it. No Sudden Move is a crime caper movie that stars Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, David Harbour, John Hamm, Kieran Culkin, Brendan Fraser, Ray Liotta, and Matt Damon, among a handful of others. And honestly, it was the cast list that piqued my interest in this movie. 3 criminals are hired to do a job that should have been a walk in the park, but when things go awry, they have to figure out who it was that set them up and why, while also trying to get as much money out of this whole messy situation as possible. And don't be fooled by that cast list. At the end of the day, this isn't your traditional ensemble cast like Ocean's 11 where everybody gets their chance to shine. I mean, most everybody in this movie is excellent and does get their chance to shine, but it's really the Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro show. And they are really good together. It's as if they have zero chemistry together, and that is what gives them their chemistry. It's weird and oddly satisfying to watch them banter back and forth. They play a couple of criminals that are trying to figure out who it was that set them up. They both play their characters fairly well reserved without any sort of exploding emotional moments from either of them. And it's those grounded performances that give this movie its great tone and keep you laughing as the story goes along. That kind of makes it sound like it's a full-blown comedy, which it isn't, but there are enough moments of levity that help keep the violence in check so you don't get too turned off by it. It's not excessive violence, but a little bit. Think kind of Coen Brothers-y, but more Steven Soderbergh-y. I kind of imagine this would be like if you took the Coen Brothers and Steven Soderbergh and threw them into a blender, this is what you would get. Or if they had a kid, but that'd be weird. Anyway, as those two characters go along and begin to figure out who it was that set them up and what it is they were actually hired to steal, it's an interesting mix of how badly the one side wants it and how much our heroes really are disinterested in it and just want to get paid. A lot of the twists and surprises that this movie presents you makes it feel like a very mature version of Ocean's 11. Like if Ocean's 11 was made for kids, this is the adult version. And that's not a knock against Ocean's 11. I think the first one's a really good movie. The other two are okay. Like Soderbergh took everything that he learned making those 3 Oceans movies and he applied it to a more grounded, serious story, and it works so well. The movie is set in Detroit in 1954, and everything from the set design to the costumes is spot on. And the camera is used in 2 unique ways. One that is very obvious and the other that's a little bit more subtle, but both combined help make this movie feel like it was filmed in the decade that the story is set. Most notably is the fisheye lens that the director opted to use for the entire movie. It can be jarring at first, and it actually may take other people a little bit longer to notice it. But it gives the edges of the frame this noticeable contour, and the absolute corners get a nice subtle vignette. And the second more subtle thing that I noticed, or actually noticed the lack of, was the camera movement itself. It's very simple. It feels very organic. There's no crazy jump cuts or rapid movement. It's just following the story as it goes along. And both of those things combined help make this just feel like a movie from that era. I mentioned how the performances lent themselves to the tone of the movie, and it's the stylistic choices of every other aspect here that drive that home. The pacing, the lighting, the score, the editing, the cinematography all blend together really well. All of that belongs to the quality of Soderbergh's direction. Like I said, he doesn't make bad movies. And while a few of the cast members only show up in limited roles, I really have to give it to Matt Damon. He completely owns the scene that he's in with such a well-delivered monologue that just sort of washes over you. It puts a smile on your face that just makes you want to go, yeah, even if you don't agree with what he's saying. It's a great performance and very impressive to see what he can do with such a limited amount of screen time. I've seen some review headlines online that are calling it a masterpiece. I don't know if I would go that far, but it is very well done and highly enjoyable if you like caper movies that also happen to feature excellent performances. I'm giving No Sudden Move a solid 8 out of 10. It's a stylish caper movie that keeps you guessing right up until the end. And that would actually be my only knock against this movie. The ending is just sort of meh. So by that rationale, the majority of this movie is an Ocean's 11 and the ending is a Solaris. That's not a bad mix if you ask me. So what about you? Have you seen No Sudden Move yet? I keep wanting to call it No Sudden Moves. It's very weird to get your head thinking No Sudden Move. That's it. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.